Hello. Yeah. So let's watch a video about the current Pal World situation. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Lawsuit against Pocket Pair, the developers of palworld,
Why is
they're
this?
not going after just one developer. They're threatening the future of gaming as we know it.
All right. Stop. Back. Oh well. I guess it's full screen in our hearts.
Nintendo is destroying the gaming industry. No, that's not an exaggeration. And it's all because of a single lawsuit that has the potential to change gaming forever. That's right. With their latest lawsuit against Pocket Pair, the developers of palworld, they're not going after just one developer. They're threatening the future of gaming as we know it. Now, before we go any further, I need to be upfront about something. I have made a lot of videos about palworld, and I'm a huge fan of the game. I mean, my channel is literally called DC palworld. And while that wasn't always the name of my channel, more on that later, it shows just how much this game means to me. But my love for palworld didn't come from nowhere. It's tied to something deeper. Like I'm sure many of you did, I grew up with Pokemon. Pokemon Blue on the Game Boy, absolute magic. Pokemon Coliseum and Gale of Darkness, some of my favorite gaming memories ever. But over the years, Pokemon started to feel stagnant. Nintendo got complacent. The games stopped evolving, and honestly, they became a disappointment for me. But when I found Palworld, it reignited the same excitement I used to feel as a kid playing Pokemon. And that's why this lawsuit feels almost personal.
This is really echoing kind of my sentiments as well on like just how Nintendo has squandered its IP and not released a unique or groundbreaking Pokemon game in a lot. I haven't played many of the newer Pokemon games because they're just I did my research and they seem like they were not very good. But Pal World, I have. Let's hop over to my Steam and check. I only have 800 hours in Pal World.
It's like watching a company I once loved try to crush something that represents everything I wanted Pokemon to be. Though, I know not everyone feels this way. To any diehard Nintendo fans who may be watching, I get it. Pokemon is a beloved franchise, and it's natural to feel protective of something that's meant so much to you. But consider this. What has Nintendo really done for you beyond making those games? Have they supported you in preserving classic titles through emulation? Have they encouraged community driven events and tournaments? Have they treated content creators, fans, just like you, with respect? Time and time again, Nintendo has shown they're not here to.
Yeah, Nintendo superfan here. No, they have not. They have not done any of those things. They want your money and they want your loyalty, but they do not want your criticism or any form of disobedience.
prioritize you, the player. They're here to protect their bottom line. And in this case, it's not just about protecting Pokemon, it's about using their power to threaten creativity and competition in gaming. Is that really something worth defending? So, what's actually happening here? Well, it's important to clarify that this isn't a copyright lawsuit, it's a patent lawsuit. That means Nintendo isn't arguing that Palworld's pals look too much like Pokemon or that the game's aesthetic borrows too heavily from their brand. Instead, they filed a lawsuit accusing Palworld of infringing on several gameplay mechanics that they claim as their own. The patents are as follows. Patent 7455191. This patent covers the mechanics of catching creatures, specifically focusing on the process of throwing a capture item, like a Pokeball, at a creature and how the interaction works within the game. Patent 7493117. This one is centered on the mechanics of aiming and throwing a capture item at a target. Success is determined by the target's health and the player's actions, with indicators showing the likelihood of capture. A captured creature can then be used in combat. Patent 7528390. This patent covers the ability for players to control and ride different types of creatures, including airborne, land, and water mounts. Okay, so personally, I think this is ridiculous. But legally speaking, they're well within their rights to do this. And that's the problem. Companies shouldn't be allowed to patent game mechanics whenever they want to. And sure, Pokemon may have some claim to the idea of capturing creatures in an object and battling with them. It's their signature mechanic after all. But when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it really starts to feel absurd. Take the patent about riding creatures, for example. You mean to tell me that Nintendo thinks that they can claim ownership over something as fundamental as riding mounts? Games have been doing this for decades.
Oops, I think we lost our spot. Yeah, games have been doing this for decades. Are they going to go after like every role-playing game? And what is happening? Well, looks like I was holding down the 0 key unironically. Hold on just a second. Let me get all of this thousands of zeros out of my text box. All right, that's done. Let's get back to where we were in the video. Here?
Hollow Knight, which transforms side-scrolling combat into a gore. Yet they're the ones that take risks to keep game mechanics like riding mounts or capturing creatures, swinging a sword. Why does this matter? Well, just in years. And instead of stepping up their, Palworld isn't just another competitor. Second, this lawsuit isn't just about the patents. The patent about riding creatures, for example.
Okay, we're back.
You mean to tell me that Nintendo thinks that they can claim ownership over something as fundamental as riding mounts? Games have been doing this for decades. Skyrim, World of Warcraft. There's an endless number of examples to choose from. And yet, here we are, with Nintendo trying to argue that Palworld violated their innovation by letting you ride a creature in a virtual world. Well, let's be honest for a second. This lawsuit isn't just about the patents. They aren't going after Palworld just because of a few shared mechanics or gameplay similarities. It's a calculated move to shut down a competitor that got too big for good old daddy Nintendo. The thing is, Palworld...
It is, but also it comes down to Sony's recent backing of them and also Microsoft getting behind them as well. And it would be fine if Palworld was just an indie game that wasn't a threat to Nintendo's foothold on this corner of the industry. But with big Microsoft and big Sony in their corner, they become a most dangerous prize that everyone is fighting over control of. When in actuality, it's just a really good game. And we should encourage, through our buying and spending habits, good games and just deny the crap cash grabs and just basically ignore Nintendo and move on.
Isn't just another competitor. It's a fresh take on the monster catching genre, offering mechanics and features that Pokemon has never dared explore. Palworld dared to fill a void that Pokemon hasn't addressed in years. And instead of stepping up their game, Nintendo's choosing to play courtroom politics. This isn't just protecting intellectual property, it's about maintaining dominance. So why does this matter? Well, it's because this lawsuit isn't just about Palworld. It's about what happens when massive corporations like Nintendo start claiming ownership over the fundamental building blocks of gaming. I mean, imagine if every basic gameplay mechanic was patented. Jumping on platforms? That's Mario. Swinging a sword? That's Zelda. Where does it end? It's an incredibly dangerous precedent for the gaming industry. Imagine a world where basic mechanics like riding mounts or capturing creatures are locked behind patents. Indie developers, the ones that drive gaming innovation, would be crushed. These creators can't afford endless legal battles, yet they're the ones that take risks to keep gaming exciting. Take Stardew Valley, for example. It didn't invent farming sims, but it reinvented them with heart and creativity, offering something uniquely its own. Or Hollow Knight, which transformed side scrolling combat into a gorgeous blend of art and storytelling. Neither game was afraid to build on existing ideas, but would they even exist in a world where innovation means risking everything? That's the kind of future.
No, they would not. If such gameplay mechanics and loops were patented, then there would just be no more indie game development and even more creative bankruptcy. But that's been the march towards turning slop games into millions and billions of dollars for the last several years. We really need to band together as fans and say enough is enough. Unless you like slop game content that is the same regurgitated slop decade in, decade out. My take, at least.
We're looking at if lawsuits like this keep happening. A future where innovation is crushed under legal threats. A future where developers are too scared to create something new. And a future where gaming becomes nothing more than a soulless cycle of rehashed ideas, controlled by corporations with no interest in pushing boundaries. You see, gaming thrives on creativity, on people taking risks, especially indie devs who aren't tied down by massive budgets or corporate expectations. That's what Palworld represents. It's not just another Pokemon clone, it's doing something new with the monster catching genre, exploring ideas that Nintendo hasn't even touched. But instead of stepping up to compete,
This has kind of been my argument for the last year or so since Palworld came out, of like people that claim that Palworld is just a Pokemon clone. Be like, no, Palworld is good. Pokemon, not so much. Pokemon's crap. Palworld, good. Pokemon, crap. See how not a clone. They may have similar kind of motifs, but the intrinsic gameplay of Palworld is completely different, as mentioned earlier. Like between the variations of the pals, like into their elemental types, the various weapons, the ability to actually make your own crafting and base system. It is a crafting and survival game with creature catching elements, and those creature catching elements are actually done better, in my opinion, than a lot of the grab bag Pokemon, like, oh, missing keys and, baby bottle. Oh yeah, that's a crazy pocket monster. Which, again, Pokemon is just a portmanteau of pocket monsters, just like Digimon, which came out before Pokemon, was a portmanteau of digital monsters, and Tamagotchi is which preceded that. Before, you guys remember Tamagotchi? Tama meaning egg, and Gachi most likely being a kind of cognate of collecting or catching, like gotcha, or basically the randomness of how you take care of your egg will lead to which Tamagotchi you will gachi. So, yeah, bring back the Tamagotchi.
Heat, Nintendo's trying to shut it down. And what's especially frustrating about this is that it's not the first time we've seen this kind of corporate overreach. Whether it's music, movies, or even gaming, there are so many examples of artistic innovation being smothered by legal nonsense. And who ends up paying the price? We do, the players. When has a patent like this ever benefited the consumer? Never. Patents like these don't help developers innovate, and they certainly don't help players enjoy better games. All they do is give corporations more control, stifling creativity and competition in the process. Look, let me give you a real example of why this would be a problem. Let's assume this all becomes the norm. Companies like Nintendo could patent game mechanics whenever they want and face no consequences for doing so. What current game would be heavily impacted by this? Ooh, I know. How about Marvel Rivals? one of the most popular games out right now. Let's be honest, while Marvel Rivals has very different characters, lore, and design choices, there's just no way it could even exist in the same ecosystem as Overwatch. Despite the creative and visual differences, at its core, it's still.
Yeah, but you see, the problem is a hero shooter. If Overwatch were to be patented or any of the other hero shooters, you think Disney wouldn't be able to stand up to those lawsuits? Because, they've got just money to burn. And Disney is also on my shit list of just terribly bad actors. And I would love to see Disney and Nintendo uh, fight it out, because that would just be a win-win for consumers that could just watch them deplete each other while indie developers pick up the slack.
Just another hero shooter. But if Blizzard wanted to, they could just patent the mechanics, lock it all down, and bam, no more Marvel Rivals. It's ridiculous, man. It should honestly be illegal. No matter how you look at it, this is like buying a monopoly piece by piece. It starts small, patenting a single mechanic here, a gameplay system there, and then suddenly, entire genres are locked behind corporate walls. And the scariest part about this is it definitely won't be just Nintendo. They're not the only company that could or will take advantage of this kind of unchecked corporate power. Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, EA. Imagine a world where they all start locking down entire genres because they were quote unquote first.
Now, entertain for a moment where all of these corporate giants are slugging it out in the courts, and the indie developers just, say, well, we're just going to keep making games anyways, and you can sue us, but like the court of public opinion, like it's weird because it becomes all about money, of like, you need to give X million dollars or yen or whatever to this other person because they have a piece of paper that says that it was their idea first. Like, and if you use that idea, it goes back to Shadows of Mordor, that EA patented, the Nemesis system. That was an awesome system. I don't really recall. I vaguely recall playing Shadows of Mordor a little bit, but never really got into it. But the Nemesis system that allowed NPCs to actually accumulate backstory and actually have a stake in the outcome of your game was a brilliant game mechanic. But EA put it behind a patent wall and hasn't used it much since. I think that they might have pulled it out for occasional games that were also in vein with EA, and maybe it was Warner Brothers who also was in association with. But basically, that patent is keeping the very idea of AI assisted NPCs to make unique gaming loops. I think that we need to just be pirates. There's a reason that piracy keeps on cropping up in this world as a deterrent, or just as a countermeasure to oppression of the crown. The crown oppresses, and people seek free enterprise in a new world. We just need to find a new world.
First person shooters, MMOs, platformers, it doesn't matter. The ripple effects with this kind of precedent could turn into a tsunami that wipes out indie developers entirely. And the result? A world where gaming innovation is at the mercy of a handful of megacorporations. Genres become stale, creativity becomes risky, and entire sections of the gaming community are left out in the cold. And let's say Nintendo wins this lawsuit. Our world is forced to bend the knee, change its core mechanics, or worst case scenario, stop selling copies altogether. What do we gain from that? Our world players aren't suddenly going to drop the game and go back to Pokemon. Pokemon won't have any competition pushing them to innovate or improve. And Nintendo, they'll only solidify a reputation for stifling creativity and crushing smaller developers. So I ask anyone who's siding with Nintendo, what are you really defending here? Is it pride? Pride in a company that doesn't even know you exist, whose games you just happen to buy and enjoy, because at the end of the day, that's all this is.
That seems to be the mantra of the fanboy cuck. Like, if you think about how Nintendo really just does not care about its fans, they haven't cared about their fans for a long time. I think that they used to actually care about the players and the gamers, but that has been a fart in the wind, decades lost and past. A fart in the wind.
Defending a corporation's monopoly doesn't make Pokemon better. It only makes the gaming industry worse for everyone. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This is just the way things are. There's nothing we can do about it. And honestly, I get it. Companies like Nintendo feel too big to challenge. Shoot, most gamers don't even think about these things. They just want to play the next Zelda or Mario and have fun. But that's exactly why this kind of overreach goes unchecked. The more we accept it, the more normalized it becomes. And look, I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to stop buying Nintendo products forever or to boycott every major gaming company, because it's really not that simple. But what I can say is this: we need to talk about it. We need to call out this behavior, share stories like this one, and keep the conversation alive. Because if we don't, if we let this slide, it won't just be Palworld. It won't just be indie games. It'll be the heart and soul of gaming itself. So here's my challenge to you. Don't let this story fade into the background. Talk about it. Share it with your friends. Or even just take a moment to think about how much you value creativity in gaming. The more we raise awareness, the harder it will be for corporations to get away with this kind of behavior. Gaming isn't just a business, it's an art form. And if we don't stand up for it, who will? All right, so technically the video's over, but I wanted to talk about the channel and why I changed my name. That said, you don't need to stick around if you don't want to. Okay.
All right. You guys don't have to stick around if you don't want to, but I am, because we support creators here, and this guy took the time to make this video, and now he's going to explain to us why he pivoted to Palworld for his channel. I considered doing the same last year of just starting up a Palworld channel for playthroughs, because as I mentioned, I have about 800 hours into Palworld, and that should have been like doubled if I would have just consistently played like I was putting 12 hours a day in when Palworld first came out. Like my first like 200 hours was in like the first month of play, I think, and then kind of stopped and then start back up. But with all the continued updates, Pocket Pair has really done their due diligence to bring this game from being in development to being developed, and I really look forward to when the full game is ready, and that people can't say, oh well, it glitches and it crashes sometimes and my Xbox don't play it right, and a whole bunch of other silly complaints, especially for people playing on Game Pass that didn't even buy the game. They're just renting it, and they're mad that an in development game is not working cross-platform for it's from its development on PC, which I have had some issues with clipping and falling through the map. But really, that's just kind of like really, in my opinion, an interesting look into how the game mesh works, and understanding, oh, if you go over here, you could used to like crawl through walls, or like, you know, climb down through the ground and other things that just were not, the meshes weren't lining up right, which is a really minor gripe if you have that as a complaint. But yeah, let's listen to the end of the video.
If you've been here a while, you might remember my name used to be Decodesta, but recently I changed it to DC Palworld, and here's why. When I started this channel, it was out of a passion for gaming, and while I genuinely enjoyed making videos about Palworld, it wasn't the only game I wanted to focus on. And as I continued to make more and more videos for it, the more I started to feel like I had painted myself into a corner. Then life got a little hectic. I started my first full-time job. I had some personal stuff going on with my girlfriend. I had moved into my own place for the first time. Juggling all of that while trying to pump out videos consistently, yeah, it burned me out big time. I still love palworld, but I don't think I can keep making content about it the way I was before. That's when I came up with the idea to rebrand. This channel had become so tied to palworld that if I wanted to branch out into other types of gaming content, I felt like I needed a blank slate. So I created a new channel called Decodesta and rebranded this one as DC Palworld. Now, was that the right move? Honestly, I don't know, and I probably never will. But hey, I'm still new to YouTube, and this whole thing is a learning process, right? Who knows? If this video blows up, maybe I'll start posting on both channels. Or maybe I'll just do that anyway. So yeah, I just wanted to give an explanation to why the name changed and why I hadn't been posting for a while. Thanks for sticking around, and here's to figuring it all out together. See you in the next one.
Let's see what the comments have to say. I need my glasses. I can't read text without my glasses. Wow, it's totally different. This entire lawsuit seems like a kindergarten playground argument. It's mine versus I had it before you. It's mine. It's just stupid. I agree with that. This is ridiculous. Imagine someone patents the jump button because it was the first. Yeah, no more jumping in games, which actually, like, in the meta, like, I consider like there to be two forms of role-playing games that you can jump and games that you can't jump in. And often I like draw that line of, if you don't have a jump button, I don't want to play your game. I hate being stuck to the ground. It's not for me. I love jumping in video games. Jump button for the win. The funniest part about the patent is that Pokemon never even invented these features to begin with. They just copied a small game that never got popular. Yeah, that's pretty true. Like, the creature capture comes from a whole mess of earlier Nintendo, not Nintendo games that were on Nintendo, and other like Sega Genesis and earlier consoles, PlayStation, but they're just copying and then trying to patent those things because they copied them first and more and got a bigger following. Patent for riding creatures. IG Nintendo can sue literally everyone that has horses. Yeah, exactly. They're coming for Red Dead Redemption next, and where does it stop? Like, does Grand Theft Auto, like does driving a car count as a creature? Are they going to uh, just push it beyond? Who knows? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, with Nintendo's pettiness, I'm done with Nintendo. I will not buy a Nintendo game or console. I'm taking it one step further, actually. I'm not even playing Nintendo games anymore. Anything that my friends have bought or want to play, like, I have a complete Nintendo blackout. Okay, continuing the conversation. The pettiness with Nintendo is gross. Instead of actually getting creative and putting actual work on their product, they would rather bankrupt their competition, and it's pathetic. I will buy everything Palworld puts out just for the spite of Nintendo. F Nintendo. Yeah, F's in the chat for Nintendo. May you rest in peace. And their pettiness, and any company that follows suit. I will not support any company trying to patent game mechanics and crush small gaming companies because they care more about work than money. Yeah, I agree. There's more to this comment. Let's see. Is there? No. Show more, show less. Don't you dare diss Big Daddy Nintendo. That's my pimp. Now excuse me while I pay my daddy $60 for a shitty Pokemon game. That nails it. Good job, Savage Verb. You got it. And that's the thing. Like, I would like to hear more from, like, if there are any Nintendo super fans out there that are still ride or die for Nintendo. After seeing this, how does that make you feel? Like, do you feel confident that Nintendo will produce anything other than trash products if this is a win for them? I personally do not. Okay, next comment. Your take on this is perfect. The ability to patent basic mechanics like riding a mount, nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. I wish there was some way for the general public to challenge a patent based on it being fundamentally stupid. Wouldn't that be nice if like enough people could just sign a petition that says, no, patent revoked. I know that because that's the thing. If you think about like the patent lawyers and the court systems, they don't play video games. They don't know what they're actually processing. They might think that Nintendo does have first mover advantage, and well, which they kind of do have first mover advantage, but they have the authority to claim rights to something that they claim that they created, but they didn't. Like the specialists don't play video games. The lawyers don't. Some lawyers do play video games, but the patent lawyers in Japan that process this probably have heard of Pokemon, and that's all. Like maybe they have kids that play Pokemon, and they're too busy being corporate lawyers to actually give their children the time that they require to be nurtured and grown. And so Pokemon is like something that they do not want to lose their security on, because then they'll have to raise their kids. Okay, next comment. The lawsuit is pure lawfare of a fat cat trying to throw its weight around. I agree. If Nintendo wins the lawsuit, it means they'll go after Studio Will Cards 2 in Arc. You can store dinos in Pokeball style cryopods, and you can mount land, sea, and air dinos. That's true. Arc is definitely on the chopping block if Nintendo wants to put them on the chopping block. But I think the real emphasis on Nintendo patented these things back in the end of 2022, I think, or 2023. I can't quite remember when they did it, but it was after Palworld had been announced for over 2 years in development. And it wasn't until right before or around the time that they released when they released their current version on Steam that the patents really like got pushed through. But Nintendo has been experimenting with strategic patent trolling for many years now. Like it goes back way further than this, and they have all kinds of patents on the Joy-Cons for their ability. Like the DualSense PS5 controller uses a lot of the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con technology, and I'm pretty sure Sony had to license that stuff from Nintendo, and that's okay, I guess. But I think that Sony also seeing the writing on the wall for how Nintendo wanted to act like a monopolistic ruler of all other video game creation, they just decided, no, we're not going to do that anymore, and we're going to start backing games that defy your market share and really shake up the community by saying no more, no more. All right, next comment. In future, we see more lawsuits from different game companies that are suing each other, regardless what is the reason. This is just a greedy path of the companies like Nintendo. They also lose respect of the players during the time. Yeah, definitely. If you still respect Nintendo after this, like, ask yourself, what are your priorities? Who do you like? Do you like good games? Do you like games that take into account what you want out of the game? Palworld has had, like, Pocket Pair through Palworld has had many upgrades of listening to their player base and trying to incorporate the suggestions that they make about just either through making memes, like all of the Chill It memes. Like that's how we had like the Chill It Pyro come out. That was the fire Chill It, or as the memes called them, Grill It. and a bunch of other things, but they're taking inspiration from the creativity of not just their workers, but also, unlike Pokemon and the Fakemon movement, they're taking inspiration from their players themselves to really give players the game that they all want. And it's like a twofold win because players get to say, wow, they actually listened to my idea. I had a good idea, and maybe I could have a future in game development if I stick with it. Like, and the game gets better to boot, unlike Nintendo, which sues content creators or like copyright strikes them for playing a 15-year-old Smash Bros game on their stream that doesn't even sell anymore, but Nintendo still owns those rights. And the same thing with ROM distributors of dead games or lost media that would be lost if not for the ROMs. But Nintendo has no interest in curating or even allowing play on their mainstay uh, store and having to buy the same NES or SNES game 5 times throughout different generations. It's gross. It's gross and it's weird. See if there are any. I mean, we just love Pokemon old game, not the company. Yeah, but if you really think about it, look back at some of the fun Pokemon game loops. They're not even really that good. Like they were filling a niche of what people wanted and trying different things, but Pokemon hasn't been good in a long time. Long time. Y'all remember the Nintendo on their way to sue lower class family for naming their child Mario meme? Yeah, the fact that is slowly becoming reality hurts. I agree. Just remember that one of them still loves you even if you're not playing the game anymore, and the other one tries to sell you boxed game without the cartridge inside. That is very true. Palworld and Pocket Pair have said many times, like, hey, if you're getting bored with the game loop and waiting on us to be able to churn out new content, we're trying really hard, but take a break, go play some other games. There's lots of great games out there that you should be playing, and Palworld does not have to be the only one. And that just is a sign of like real maturity in the system and like, in the ecosystem. And I can't imagine Nintendo like being that sort of like responsible and compassionate to say like, hey, yeah, you don't like our game very much. We're going to work on trying to fix some of the things that you have pointed out, but while we do that, like, you don't have to suffer and slog through a terrible game. Go play, uh I don't know. Let's look at my, like, I've been jumping back and forth between like Dwarven Realms and Vampire Survivors, which are two other indie games that are kind of in the action RPG genre. And let's see what other games I got. Terraria, which I don't jump into very often, but I have a certain type of games that I prefer to play. RimWorld is also currently installed on my machine, but I have a lot of interest. Let's see. Let's pop back. First, like, thanks to what was it? I forgot. It's DC Pal World is the handle. So if any of you enjoyed that video, uh, definitely check out DC Pal World and give them some love, because we all need to stick together as small creators. And I don't know quite what their numbers are at. Let's see here. DC Pal World has 3,000 subscribers and 99 videos. That's pretty good. So definitely subscribe to them, watch their videos, and give them some love at DC Pal World at YouTube at. and also Decodesta secondary channel as well. Keep up the good work. I will try to remember to paste your link into my video, even though I probably won't get any views on it. I still would like to support the original creator of the video, and I'm still in the process of learning this whole thing myself. So bear with me. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time and energy that it takes to sit through these sorts of shallow dives. And if you like this sort of content, comment and let me know what else you would like some reactions to. I tried not to jump in too much to what he was saying because it was mostly good stuff, and it was echoing kind of the stuff that I've been talking about and thinking about for the last little while. And it just happened to come out yesterday, and I was talking about it yesterday. So I thought that I would do a little reaction to it. Well, either way, thanks for tuning in. Have a good day. 0 out.